Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick with me? Famous scenes with drama queens and heroes acting out there on a silver screen. Come grab a seat, popcorn is on me.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
So if you're going to have a mutiny on your hands, Thomas Manning may not be the one to deliver, but Jason Statham would be. If you were going to have The Last House at the End of Oak Street, we're not sure what would happen if that was a double feature that became one film. And if there was a
But
prisoner,
there might
and
be a samurai and a prisoner hanging out at the last house at the end of Oak Street. So
Say that one more time, Thomas, so I make sure I heard you.
I said there might be a samurai and a prisoner hanging out at the last house at the end of Oak Street.
That's exactly right. While also listening to power ballads and spending some time with Ted Lasso while they're chasing the coyote and going to a court battle where the coyote takes on Acme. I am Noel T. Manning II. This is Meet Me in the Movies. That is Thomas Manning. And we're going to try to cover at least two of those things today on this particular episode. A lot of stuff we could talk about. A lot of things we've been digesting for sure. Thomas, good to see you, bud.
Yeah, good to be here. We got a lot to cover, and I think it's always a good thing when you have too many movies, too many good movies to talk about.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's dive right in, man. I'm diving right into the ocean with Jason Statham. This is when I saw the trailer for this, I remember how much I loved the movie Under Siege with Steven Seagal, and I'm like, this has that same kind of vibe. I'm there. And then of course I didn't go there, but you did.
That's right. Yeah, I got to check out a screening of this film at the Independent Picture House in Charlotte, which is a great theater that we'll also mention talking about a movie later on in the show. But got to talk about this Jason Statham film, Mutiny. And one of the first lessons I learned as a student in Noel Manning Film Criticism 101 was the lesson of a director's intent. And I think the majority of Jason Statham movies, I think, are kind of like a litmus test for understanding the question of a director's intent or what a director's intent is. And I mean, this doesn't apply to every single one of them, but most of the time, Jason Statham movies are just vehicles for Jason Statham to do crazy action movie stuff and to fight people and oftentimes kill people in creative ways. That's why I wanted to watch Mutiny. And that is precisely what Mutiny provided. And you mentioned it does take place, the majority of it takes place on a boat. And, you know, there's some stuff that sets up why we end up on this boat. But once you're there, I think it makes the most of this confined space. It almost becomes a slasher film in a sense where Jason Statham is the slasher and the people getting their, you know, getting slashed are people that deserve it. They are truly evil people that you want to see meet the wrath of Jason Statham. I mean, you put him in tight hallways with cargo boat equipment that shouldn't be used as a weapon, but sure can be used as a weapon. And he takes down some people in very unique fashion. I mean, I'm talking about like harpoon guns, industrial hooks. You got some, I think, massive wrenches, maybe some emergency
Was it going after
axes.
like a shark? Was it going after Jaws or something? That sounds like something I saw when they were trying to take down Jaws just 50 years ago.
Well, it was either like one shark or 25 men. So, you know, it depends on, I think one shark equals 25 men. So,
I love it. I love it.
You know, the action is very well constructed. It's not balletic like a John Wick. It's really just guys scrapping it out however they can. The director is Jean-Francois Richet. He directed the movie from a few years ago called Plane with Gerard Butler and Mike Coulter, which we liked quite a bit. And I think it's very similar action delivery, compared to that. So, yeah, Mutiny, it's, the one thing that kind of struck me as odd with it was structurally, the second and third acts almost feel smushed together. The second act very clearly begins as our protagonist gets on the boat and he just keeps picking off bad guys one by one and one by one, and there's not really a clear transition into the third act. So that was like my one kind of drawback in the experience of watching this film, but also I didn't come to this for a screenwriting masterclass. I just, came to see Statham do what he does. And then quick note on the sound design, they make great use of the clinking of metal all throughout this cavernous ship, and then also the ambience of the ocean and the desolation and the isolation of just being miles and miles away from the closest potentially a good guy somewhere out there. So Mutiny was a tight 90 minutes. I would say this will give you exactly what you want over the course of that 90-minute period.
Well, and I will say that I am a sucker for action films, good, bad, great, in the middle. I just love the aspect of engaging in the action that's going on. And sure, I'll walk away from some that I will probably that I have forgotten, but I still just enjoy the ride. And it sounds like that's what you're talking about with Mutiny that's in theaters now.
Yeah, and I was fortunate enough to see it with a really good crowd over at the Independent Picture House, and people were reacting to the scenes that cause a visceral reaction with some pretty gnarly approaches to taking down bad guys. I'll say, my mom probably wouldn't be able to handle some of it. It's a hard R rating, but. But I think I got to give a solid B to the Mutiny with Jason Statham.
Awesome. In theaters now if you are watching this show. And if you're not watching this show, then who am I talking to? So there's another film that's at the Independent Picture House as well, The Samurai and the Prisoner. And you got a chance to check this one out way early, Thomas.
I surely did. Yeah, this has had kind of a staggered release across the country, and this is a film that is directed by Japanese filmmaker Kiyoshi Kurosawa, and no relation to Akira Kurosawa, but this feels exactly like the kind of story that Akira Kurosawa would tell. It's inspired by historical figures and events, but not directly based on a true story, and it's based on a novel as well. And it's a movie where the camera kind of just sits back and lets the actors do their thing for most of the film. It's a 2.5-hour movie, and a lot of it is just pure dialogue. So, I mean, the script had to have been like 200 pages. The lead performance by Masahiro Motoki is really one of the best performances you'll see this year, and it's very understated. He's a man who he's a leader. He's trying to lead with peace in a time of war, and he's really swimming against the current in that regard. And he thinks leading with peace is a sign of strength, while of course others see it as a sign of weakness. So really interesting protagonist to build the film around. It's also about kind of one era folding into another. There's a quote that really stuck out with me. Someone said, "What has this world come to? Nothing makes sense anymore." You have some kingdoms are falling, new ones are rising. Some armies fight with bows and arrows, while others fight with firearms. So, like we talked about, the changing of the guard, essentially. And then within all that, it's also a murder mystery. And it's not just a single murder; it's a whole series of them. And it's not the type of whodunit where you're sitting there as the viewer trying to get ahead of the characters. You kind of just welcome the pace of the delivery of the information as it is presented to you, very methodically over the course of the film. And I think there are a handful of scenes that at first glance might feel repetitive, or you feel like that could have been trimmed down. And there's a couple scenes in particular where it's like a dynamic between these two specific characters where I was thinking, do we really need this over and over again? But ultimately, those ended up being some of the most emotionally fulfilling character interactions, just because of what we see when everything comes into full view. And I really love films that find a way to make every moment like that, every small character moment, kind of be a part of this tapestry when all is said and done. So yeah, Samurai and the Prisoner is, and also of course it just looks so beautiful. As I mentioned, there's not a lot of fancy camera movement, but when the frame that is constructed, it just kind of feels like every scene could be a painting.
And Thomas, I don't think you mentioned this. It is a period piece, correct?
Yeah, it's takes place, a few hundred years ago. I don't know the exact timeline, but
I'm looking at the cliff notes that were provided. I think 1578 time period. So it is several hundred years ago.
Would have been in your adolescence, I believe.
And this is a foreign language film with English subtitles. You said very heavy dialogue. You and I never have issues with subtitles, but anytime that we do watch an international film, we always want to mention that for those that may have challenges with looking at that. But man, you and I have seen some of the best films in the past few years that have been international films, and that's why I love award season so much, because we truly get a chance to engage in films that take us all over the world and back in time as well. Any final thoughts or comments on The Samurai and the Prisoner, Thomas?
Well, I mean, speaking more to international cinema, that's something that you and I continue to champion, especially for our audience here on C19. And I think Cleveland County has great opportunities to explore international cinema with our film festivals that we have here around as well. But when Bong Joon-ho was on the award circuit winning the Oscars for Parasite 6 years ago, he mentioned that subtitles are just a 1-inch obstacle between you and an entirely new world of cinema. And that's why I'm always just totally floored by some of the things that I find that films that might not have even been heavily marketed or might have flown under the radar here in the States, but you look at them and it's some of the most stunning works of art that you've seen in your life. And so, yeah, that's why I was glad to be able to talk about The Samurai and the Prisoner here.
And you can find that at the Independent Picture House in Charlotte, North Carolina. Thomas, your rating for The Samurai and the Prisoner?
Yeah, I'm going to give a solid A- to The Samurai and the Prisoner.
We're going to take a quick intermission, and on the other side of the break, we're going to come back and check out maybe a last house at the end of Oak Street and see what kind of creatures and critters may be crawling around. Stick around.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick?
Join us for our 24th season of Armchair Quarterback on C19 TV. Each week we look at the 4A Burns Bulldogs, the 5A Crest Chargers, the 6A Kings Mountain Mountaineers, and the 3A Shelby Golden Lions. We will also discuss ACC, SEC, and Gardner-Webb football, along with the Carolina Panthers. Watch all season long on C19 TV or streaming online at c19.tv.
This is the place that I was able to go forth with my education. I've been to different places. I've tried to do this a few times, and I wasn't able to get my GED until I came here again, and now I succeeded. I thought it was going to take me 2 years, 2 to 3 years, yes. It took me 3 to 4 months.
After a long, uncertain journey, Coyote vs. Acme is finally seeing the light of day. Originally shelved by Warner Brothers as a tax write-off, this film eventually found its way to Catch-Up Entertainment and seeks to answer the question, what if the antagonist from a beloved children's cartoon that was always the butt of the joke actually had feelings? And what if he took those feelings to court?
So now that antagonist becomes the beloved protagonist. But here's the catch. He's a cartoon in a real-life world, and he can't talk. He can only communicate through action. It doesn't get any more cinematic than that, Thomas.
This movie has a new joke every 30 seconds, but the comedy never feels repetitive. Every joke delivery feels unique and singular.
It should have never taken this long for the film to reach audiences, but I'm so glad it's finally here. Directed by Dave Green, Coyote vs. Acme earns an A- Screen Scene Report Card rating, and it arrives in theaters on August the 28th. For Screen Scene and Thomas Manning, I'm Noel T. Manning II.
That's all, folks.
Hello and welcome back to Meet Me at the Movies. Noel T. Manning II here with Thomas Manning, and we're going to be traveling really just not even a block. We're going to be going to the end of Oak Street, Thomas, because J.J. Abrams said we should. And if J.J. Abrams is producing something, you know we're going to show up, especially if it has the name of our street, or at least the corner of our street in the title. Thomas, let's talk about this science fiction survival thriller with Anne Hathaway. I'll get it out. Anne Hathaway and Ian McGregor.
Yeah. Well, quick note, you mentioned J.J. Abrams, but he didn't even direct this. It was David Robert Mitchell who directed this, and I think David Robert Mitchell and Jim Henson probably feel a kinship now, because how many times have we heard of Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas? Well, guess what? Tim Burton didn't direct that. He merely produced it. That was directed by Jim Henson, just as David Robert Mitchell directed this, and it was produced by J.J. Abrams. But anyway, this is a film. It's been one I've been eyeing since I first heard about it, like probably 9 months ago or so. And I knew there was some sci-fi element involving a creature, maybe some dinosaurs, maybe some, cosmic phenomena going on. But I think the premise was even more fascinating and had even more layers than I really anticipated. I thought there was just going to be a meteor bringing dinosaurs to Earth, and it's a family dealing with that. And, it is a family dealing with dinosaurs, which is interesting enough as it is, but there's more layers to why this is happening. And I think it sets up some really interesting narrative and emotional potential, and I think it was capitalized upon very well. But it leaves enough mystery and isn't really consumed with explaining why all this wild stuff's happening. It's just, here's the situation, and let's deal with it, and it's through the lens of this single family.
I thought the casting. I thought the casting was really solid with Hathaway. She was really the anchor for me in this, and every scene that she was in, I was really drawn to. Not so much for the rest of the cast, especially the lead cast. They didn't really stick with me as much. I was very intrigued by the story. I thought the special effects were incredibly solid. The sound design really, really clicked. This is a period piece, another period piece. 1982 is the time period when the dinosaurs decide to explore this neighborhood. I don't want to give too much away, because that's part of the fun of watching this movie, is trying to figure out, okay, how is this happening? And we find that out, but it takes a little while for us to get there, so I don't want to have any spoilers. But I really didn't, the other casting didn't click with me, Thomas, except for some of the supporting cast. But the effects were really, really, really solid. I thought that there were some scenes that felt like throwaway scenes that didn't really further the story for me. And that's kind of one of the things that took me out of this just a bit. Your mom and I both watched this. We were really excited about it, looking forward to it. When you and I watch films that we both feel were kind of average, those are some of the hardest films in the world to review. And for me, this film felt a bit average compared to some of the others I've seen, especially if I'm going to get a chance to talk about another one that also is kind of a post-apocalyptic film. But those are just some of my thoughts. I thought it had a lot of promise, a lot of potential, but for me, it didn't deliver across the board.
Well, I think you're wrong, and I think you don't deserve to be on the show anymore, actually.
Okay. All right, man. All right. See ya.
I think we just clicked very differently with this movie. Oh wow, so it is just me riding solo now. Right.
Hey man,
but
you asked for it.
pretty much everything you mentioned that bothered you, I found to be part of the charm of the film. I really appreciated the casting, especially of, I think the younger actors were ones that probably didn't really click with you. And for me, I loved, they play teenagers. It's a group of mother and father and two teenage children. And I just really love this central family of four and what was explored within, their interpersonal dynamics, but also the very external conflict kind of descending upon them. And so many aspects of this movie are straight out of an Amblin film from the 80s. You think about the shots of the group of kids riding their bicycles up a hill. And of course, not that Steven Spielberg invented dinosaurs, but he kind of is the cinematic blueprint for what can be the standard of a dinosaur on film. Like you mentioned, effects were really, really strong for a film that I don't think had, the massive, like hundreds of thousands or hundreds of millions of dollars of budget, but it had what was accomplished with the resources it had. I was quite impressed with. And also, I just got to say, the action, the way the camera glides in the action sequences here and captures the full scope of, it is the end of Oak Street. A lot of the action sequences are about having this entire street in full view and just chaos emerging from all corners but keeping it focused on how these characters are responding to this chaos. That was kind of what really stuck with me about this film. But also, like, I can appreciate you having a different perspective and not totally being on the same page with the way it landed from a performance standpoint for you from some of the characters.
Yeah, the budget 80 to 92 million is what we're seeing for the budget for this. So, not a huge budget, as you said. I'm for me to look at this, I kept asking myself, why 1982? It didn't feel like it needed to be in 1982 from a setting standpoint. It didn't bother me, but I felt like this film could have also been any other time period in the past 30 or 40 years. And I will say, you talked about the camera where absolutely there were some scenes, especially early on, where you and I talked about this, had almost this Citizen Kane feel where you've got one character almost filling the whole, left side of the frame while things are going on behind them. And that was really engaging for me.
The very deep focus.
Absolutely. And so, technically, it clicked with me in a lot of levels, but it's not one that I'm going to go back and revisit time and time again. Although your mom did say that she wants to go back and see it again. She and I both kind of felt the same way. We enjoyed it, but we did not love it. So Thomas,
I think she especially loved the adorable little snake in this movie as well.
Yeah, she did. You tried to give her a warning about that. Yeah, if you're afraid of snakes or, I don't know, having your legs ripped off by creatures or, I don't know, just being eaten by creatures, you may want to stay away from it. I don't know, or maybe you can go and say, hey man, glad it's not me. Glad that's not me. All right, Thomas, what is any other final comments before you give your rating for The End of Oak Street?
Yeah, Michael Giacchino did the score, and he will never let you down, and loved his work here. So big summer for him between this and Spider-Man. But I'm gonna give a B+ to The End of Oak Street.
Okay, I'm giving a C+ to The End of Oak Street as well. So we can if we wanted to balance that, it'd be a C. So no, or would it be a C? I don't know. So anyway, B-. But anyway, C+, B+ for The End of Oak Street. There's another one I watched this weekend, Thomas. I wanted to make sure I mentioned your mom and I both watched this as well. Wagner Moura and Greta Lee star in a Netflix original that you can check out now, and this is called The Last House. It also follows this family in a post-apocalyptic kind of world where they are trapped inside of their house. There's something keeping everybody trapped inside, and part of the mystery is trying to discover why, how, and for how long. And it's kind of this reverse home invasion thing going on, and it is fascinating to watch this unfold. There's the thing called The Monster in the House, which is a Blake Snyder formula, and this is a monster in the house, but it's outside of the house maybe, and so but it's that same approach that you're not sure what's beyond those walls and why. And it is a very, very fascinating movie to watch. Most everything is contained within the home. There are a few things on the outside, but I tell you, if you want to check out something for home delivery, and you want to get that feel of that claustrophobic nature, some mystery, some action, some drama, I would highly recommend checking out The Last House. And it is very, very worth my while, and I think it's worth your while too. Has that same kind of sci-fi element as The End of Oak Street. And one of the things I really liked about this is this all happens pretty early on in the movie, but these particular characters, this family, they are very much from the mindset, a family of four, saying, okay, we don't know how long this is going to be, so let's start figuring out what we need to do to survive. How much food do we have? We have to ration it. They started going into this kind of survival mode, not just the mode of, okay, I'm starving. This is, power is going to go. This will be over tomorrow. No, there was none of that. It was more very much this, we don't know what's going on. We don't know why. And we don't know how long it's going to take before we can find what normal looks like again.
Yeah.
There's some
that was
really.
I think that was our family's reaction when I slipped on the ice and broke my hip. It was just, we don't know how long this is going to take, but we just got to pull our resources and take care of them however we can. So
there you go. So if you're looking for some solid acting, if you're looking for that kind of sci-fi survival vibe and want to do it at home, the runtime for this is about an hour 52 minutes, but it is it goes by pretty quickly. And I tell you, I'm really, really impressed with this movie. It was inspired deeply from the COVID-19 pandemic as well, and you can sense that as you're watching this. But The Last House on Netflix, I am giving this a solid A- rating, and you can find that now. And it was actually when it opened August 7th week, it was number 1 on the Netflix top 10. So a lot of people checking out this movie. Any final thoughts, Thomas, before we wrap today?
Wagner Moura was the lead in that. A friend of the show, Wagner Moura, I might add, Oscar nominee. So good to see him getting a lot of good work out there.
Awesome. We appreciate everybody who takes the time to be with us right here on Meet Me at the Movies. And I do want to give just one shout out to a sleeper film for me for the summer. I got a chance to check this out, and it is now available on Blu-ray and DVD and digital. Power Ballad. If you're a fan of Paul Rudd or a fan of Nick Jonas or both of them, and you like music and you're drawn to films like Once, Begin Again, or Sing Street, John Carney is back, and it is well worth your time. Hopefully I'll be able to give you a much deeper dive into Power Ballad later, but I wanted to make sure I gave that a shout out as well. Well, Thomas, appreciate you as always. Thanks for all that you do and all the research you pour into your work here on Meet Me at the Movies. And for the entire cast and crew, we thank you. And for our audience, we appreciate you. And until next time, I'm Noel T. Manning II for Thomas Manning. That's a wrap.
Many films to view until we meet again. Next time we see you, we'll gladly fill you in. We'll tell about the happy and the sad ones. We'll talk about the good ones and the bad ones. Many films to view till we meet again.